Hi my lovely, today we are going to be covering 5 things that I did to prep for my calm water birth back when I was a first time mum. So let's dive into this episode. Okay, I didn't always know that I was going to want a water birth, so this is a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of sharing my journey, infused with some mindset tips as always, and I invite you as we go through this video to just check in on yourself with your reactions, because if you're expecting and you're starting to put your birth preferences in order, it's so helpful to just listen to other people's stories, experiences, wisdom, lessons, and just take the parts that are going to resonate with you and help you along your journey. So if there's part of what I share that doesn't resonate with you or is not what you want, that is fine. That is good information, because then you can dismiss that or just get clearer on what you do actually want. So let's dive into the episode, and I hope that these tips are going to help you as much as they helped me along my own journey. So step number 1, the thing that I did that at the outset really that helped me along and helped me be prepared going into birth. This is one that I assume most of us are doing. You're definitely doing it if you've stumbled across this video. It is educating yourself. The tips get juicier as I go on and less commonplace as I go on, so stick with me till the end for more depth, but I just feel like this is a basic one, a foundational one that we all get started on. Educating ourselves can often look like learning about our birth options, right? That's like pretty typical, and we kind of think of them in buckets. So learn about your birth options in terms of natural birth. Like, what would a natural birth look like? Where do you want it to be? Do you want it to be at home, in the hospital, a birth center? Find out even what options are available. For example, a birth center was not an option in my area. So for me, it was hospital birth or home birth, and I learned the pros and cons of each. For me, ultimately, I decided to go with a hospital birth because I liked, even though a water birth was my preference, I liked knowing that help and support was close by. Should I need it? Should I change my mind? Should anything? I just felt like more comfortable in the hospital. I know a lot of people choose a water birth. This is one of the things that I found through my education, because they want a home birth, because hospitals can sometimes spike your adrenaline, and some people have a fear associated with hospitals, and a home just feels like more supportive for them. So again, learn about your options in terms of location, but then also in terms of your type of birth. So the things that I was looking at was I was just learning the pros and cons of a unmedicated birth. I loved the thought of letting my body do its thing, like not interrupting the incredible birth hormones that are happening. I didn't want medication to impact that at all. I also wanted to feel like I was in touch with my body, because one of the things with, getting an epidural is your sensation changes, right? And your pain changes, and I wanted to feel like really in touch with my baby, and that seemed really appealing to me. So again, learning the pros and the cons of each option. I learned about epidurals, right? I learned about, what the risks were, also what the benefits were. Going into my pregnancy, I thought 100% that I would want an epidural. That's just what I always thought growing up. I didn't really know, or so I thought, people who had unmedicated births. And I thought I had a low pain tolerance. So before I was pregnant, before I started educating myself, I was like, I am definitely going to want an epidural. And no shame on if you want an epidural or not, but I do think it's really empowering to learn about the benefits and the risks of each one, and then you get to ultimately decide like which one feels the most empowering to you, which one feels the best to you. And we could all ask ourselves these questions and come up with a different answer or a slightly different preference, right? So like I said at the outset of the video, if you're like, actually an epidural sounds amazing to me, like it exists, like that is the feeling that I want to have going into birth. Like, I want to feel supported, I want to feel comfortable, like I want it to feel easeful in that way, like whatever the pros are for you, right? But yeah, just for me personally, when I started learning about that, I was like, okay, I would keep this as an option in case I need it or in case I really want it, because I've never given birth before. I don't know like what it's gonna feel like. I don't know how I'm gonna feel. I don't know how long my labor is gonna last. I do remember reading at one point that sometimes getting an epidural can like slow down labor, which is really interesting. But then you also hear of, so then I was just like, okay, another tip for the unmedicated. But then you also hear of those like examples, right, of people who after ages of laboring get an epidural and then that speeds it up. So that's why it's good to do your research, look at the data about each one, and then you're just more informed, and then you can more likely advocate for yourself during labor in terms of what you want. You're more familiar with what the options are as labor progresses, and you just feel, you feel more confident, more empowered to actually get the type of birth experience that you want to have. And pregnancy is just the perfect time to just like take in videos like this, start educating yourself, and then you just feel so prepared and knowledgeable when you're in the delivery room. So, okay, educating yourself about the different options. I also learned about other pain relief options like laughing gas. So, what's the name of it? Nitrous oxide? I don't remember clearly, but laughing gas. I remember that being very intriguing because I was like, okay, that won't like numb me from the waist down, but could be a good kind of like in between unmedicated birth and an epidural. Like if I want some pain relief, like I remember feeling, I'm like, okay, that could be a good option for me if I feel like I need it. And so I talked to my midwives about that. And then lastly, C-section. I know some people have a scheduled C-section, some people it ends up being an emergency C-section. For me, that was like last on my preference list, but I did educate myself a little bit about C-sections as well, because I also, at the end of the day, wanted to just do whatever would be the most healthy and just the best for me and my baby in the moment. So I know that that is a possibility. And again, one of the reasons I wanted to be in the hospital was in case things did progress in a certain way with my birth and I wanted some extra support around me. So step one, education. I'm going over this very quickly because I feel like this is not my forte as the birth education. The pieces I'm going to talk about next are, but also our society is like pretty good at educating us about birth in our standard birth and prenatal classes. And if you have a midwife, like I'm in Canada, in Ontario, if you have a midwife, you could talk to them about all your options. The appointments are more like lengthy and luxurious, so you get a chance to ask them all these questions. If you have a OB and your appointments are short, come prepared with some questions and ask them to share the options with you and just start to get familiar with what they are. But there's also so many resources online to educate yourself about the different birth options. All right, I feel like once you have a good foundation, you start to get clear on, okay, like this sounds good to me. Okay, this is good to know about like the risks of this, or about maybe when I would go with that option, right? You're just versing yourself in the land of birth so that you're not going in clueless, you're just going in prepared. Once you have that foundation, you can start to dig deeper, and this is where it gets more fun. So step 2 of how I prepared for my calm water birth was I just started to get really clear on what those preferences looked like for me. And I wanted preferences over a solid plan because of a tip that my midwife gave me. She said, and she called me because she's Welsh like me, which is what are the odds because we're in Canada, and she used to work at the same hospital in South Wales as where I was born. So what are the odds of that? And then what are the odds out of all the midwives in my city I would get paired with her. Love her. And as classic Welsh people do, they're just like such like warm people. She like shortened my name, like very few people call me M. She shortened my name and I just love her. But she's just, and she tells it to me straight. She's like, M, have a birth preference idea, but not a birth plan. Don't have a rigid plan. And she told me early enough in my pregnancy that I always kept that in mind. I'm like, okay, because I love a good vision. I love a specific vision, but it was helpful for her to tell me that, then I didn't get too attached to a certain outcome. And that meant I was able to go with the flow more during labor ultimately. And I feel like even if things didn't go my way, which spoiler, I got epic water birth. If things didn't go my way, I think I would have been like kinder and gentler on myself if we needed to pivot during labor. So have birth preferences. And one of the ways you can start doing it is, I hinted at it already at the beginning of this video, is start to just learn about the different options. You'll get clearer. It's like an ex-boyfriend. It's like, oh man, now I just definitely know what I don't want. Like, I am so clear. I don't even know what I want. I'm so clear on what I don't want. Even that can help you narrow it down. Same thing for birth. As you learn about epidural, C-sections, you're like, okay, I have a preference for this. You know, you can see the red flags or the risks with certain things, but you're starting to get clear on your preferences. And then just watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts like this, you can get clearer based on hearing other women's stories, and just that inner narrative as you're watching or listening. Just keep in mind like what sounds appealing to you, what sounds less appealing. It's gonna get more clear simply by taking in the information and just bringing awareness to your thoughts and your feelings about certain things. And if certain fears come up, just a little disclaimer side note here, if certain fears come up, like you're reading about unmedicated births and you're like, oh god, that sounds terrifying, but you're like, but I can also see the benefits to it. A fear doesn't necessarily mean you don't want it, but it means that there is maybe something to look at and work through there. Maybe it's a limiting belief. For example, I used to think I had a really low pain tolerance. I was like, I was such a wimp when I sprained my ankle, like in the 9th grade or whatever. Like, I'm like, I just remember lying in my bed feeling so sorry for myself. So I'm like, no way can I handle childbirth, because all I've ever heard about that is it's the worst pain in the world. And I was like, if that was painful, if breaking my finger was painful when I was playing basketball that one time, like, there is no way I can handle birth. Like, think of how I feel when I stub my toe. It's like, no one speak to me. Like, I can't. Those were just fears and limiting beliefs that I had about birth based on everything I'd heard about birth and based on limiting beliefs I had about myself and my ability to handle certain things. And it also just speaks to like the negativity portrayed about birth. And here's what I will say about the pain. 2 things. 1, it was so intense, yes. At different points in my birth, was it painful? Yes. At one point in my birth, was I asking for the epidural? Yes, in my first labor. However, I don't know, it was so worth it. It was so worth it. And also that pain wasn't for the whole thing. It was for a very specific period in my birth in the transition phase, which is where it's the most intense, most common that you think you can't do it. You think that as labor goes on, here's a mindset shift that really helped me. This is what I thought. I thought as birth went on, as you get closer to 10 centimeters, it just gets more and more and more painful. So if you can't handle it at 7 or 8 centimeters or 6 centimeters, how the heck are you going to handle it at 10? Okay, I thought pain during birth was linear, that it starts off gentle, which it usually does, unless you are induced, which is, again, birth education options, something that I was like, I would ideally like to avoid being induced. I thought pain was linear and then would just go up and up and up. That is not how pain works in birth for the most part, which is wild. The most intense phase for me and for many, many, many women is the transition phase. that's around like the 7 centimeter give or take mark. And that's the part where you think you can't do it. And that's actually the most intense part in terms of pain for so many of us, which is amazing, because if you can handle that, you know the pain is probably going to shift and decrease. So pain actually goes like this in many, many, many women's experiences in birth, including mine. So I can vouch for it, and my clients, and it just shifts. And then you're focused not on the sensation, so you're not even like really aware as much of the pain, because you're focusing on pushing and like the feeling with your baby and like connecting with them. And that's the focus. It's not like, oh, I can't do this because of pain. No, that's transition phase for some people, for many people, but then you can shift it. Okay, so pain, not linear. Yes, you can handle it. If you can go through the transition phase, chances are you can deliver perfectly fine with less pain in the pushing part. So that's exciting, okay? Second thing that I want to say about pain, I wasn't even planning on sharing this in this episode. I feel like this deserves a whole other episode around pain. It is subjective. And the cool thing, and I strongly believe, and I was manifesting a low pain birth, which I did experience the second time. I'll link to my birth story for my second one somewhere else, somewhere down the line. I don't know if it's up here yet, so maybe I'll share it later, but it's definitely on my podcast if you want to scroll back. Pain is subjective, and pain isn't something experienced by every laboring woman. That blew my mind, because all I'd ever heard growing up, I'm curious what you've heard, let me know in the comments below, or send me a message. I heard it was like the worst pain in the world, and it blew my mind when I was pregnant to find out that that's not always the case. So that's very exciting. I love the possibility that it's not painful, so don't let my experience of me telling you it was painful in the transition stage from my first labor dictate anything about what that should mean for your birth, okay? If you're excited by the thought that birth can be not very painful or not painful at all, there is that possibility exists too, which is really cool. So you can like keep going down that trajectory. That's the trajectory I went on when I was pregnant and how I prepared for birth. And even though I did experience pain during labor at certain stages, but again, not even between contractions, not early on, at the end I was good. My birth prep 100% helped me to have a lower pain birth than I feel like I would have otherwise. So keep with me, because I'm going to keep going through the steps, and this is where we start to go a bit deeper. So yeah, get clear on your vision, okay? That's step 2. And for me, I'll just describe my vision in case it speaks to you. My vision, as I started to learn more, get clear on my preferences, I was like, I would love a water birth in the hospital, and I wanted my husband there, I wanted my midwife there, and then they always have like a backup midwife, so there's always 2 of them, and then that was it. I didn't want the hospital staff in and out, but I didn't need to have that with my midwives. I wanted a dimly lit hospital room. I didn't want the bright lights, because I also know in terms of oxytocin and all those feel-good hormones, I wanted to make the hospital feel as mellow as possible. Now, I'm not one of those people that hospitals freak them out, but I still feel subconsciously like that's just not a very cozy environment, right? To have like bright hospital lights and like machines like beeping or just like hospital noises. But what I ended up getting was one of the tub rooms in the hospital. They had 2 water birth rooms that the midwives could use with their patients or clients. And yeah, we dimmed the lights. It was really quiet. I just wanted it calm, and I wanted it intimate. I wanted it small. I didn't want an audience. Like, I wanted it to be me and my husband, and then my midwives just supporting us kind of quietly around. You know, that's what I wanted. I packed some things to make my hospital room more vibey. I packed like crystals and like aromatherapy oils, like essential oils and stuff. My hospital bag ended up staying in the car. Stay tuned for next week, because I'm going to share that story with you. But yeah, just do what you want to make it vibey. I've since heard of a local midwife that apparently brings in like little battery operated like twinkle lights and candles. And I'm like, oh, if I would have heard that tip when I was pregnant, I would have loved that. That sounds like so fun and like so lovely and magical to me. Some people make a playlist, pump up songs, like women empowerment songs or calm songs. I forget if I made a playlist, to be honest, but didn't use it. But yeah, that's just the kind of birth that I wanted. And I wanted to labor at home for as long as possible, just to be in that cozy environment, because I know that my body would feel safe there. Labor would probably progress more efficiently there, I felt. And so that was my plan, was to just be in touch with my midwives, be at home in my living room on my birth ball, and just like try out different positions. That was another way I educated myself, different birth positions. I had a preference for birth positions that let gravity work with me. Another reason I didn't end up wanting an epidural was because then I could be on my birth ball, I could be in a squat position, I could be on all fours, and I didn't know what was going to feel good to me in labor, so it was just good to know what the common positions are that lets gravity work with you. So I just knew of different things to try in labor, and it wasn't like a mental overload thing because I just already knew it going in. It was one of the things that I'm so big about. That's why I love learning things in pregnancy ahead of time, even for postpartum, but also for birth, because it just helps you out. It just helps you out later, and it's so fun to learn and just like be immersed in this journey and like just get all excited about it. So yeah, that was my whole birth preference list. Number 2, so I was getting clear on your vision. So for you, you can ask yourself, what do I already know about what I want during labor, and what do I not want? And then you can also ask yourself, out of everything, all the little topics that I've like mentioned along the way already in this episode, is there anything you want to just write down that you want to look into after? Because that might just be like your next little rabbit hole to go down and see like what's going to feel good for you to learn about. All right. Let's do number 3 next. The third thing I did to prep for a calm water birth when I was back as a first-time mum. This one relates to what I just said about rabbit holes. This has to do with following your joy. You know the book and the show, The Art of Tidying Up is what it's called, by Marie Kondo. I'm literally reading her book right now. I should look at the name. But you know that book, you know that Netflix show, and her method of tidying and making space in your home and surrounding yourself only with items that light you up is to go through each of your items by category, start with all your clothes, put them all in a big pile on your bed, and then you pick up each clothing and you ask it and you just listen to your heart and see if it sparks joy. And if it sparks joy, you keep it, you put it back in your closet in like a new, maybe, or just a spot that feels good. If it doesn't spark joy, you donate it or you get rid of it. The same is true with how you prepare for birth and your birth education. You want to look at all your options, you want to look at all the categories, you want to look at the epidural, the C-section, you want to look at the pants section, you want to look at the shirts, and you want to ask from each one like what sparks you joy. So as you learn about birth, because it could be information overload, right? Like there are textbooks on these topics. Like there are just so many rabbit holes literally that you could go down. Choose the ones that spark joy. Choose the YouTube videos that spark joy for you to watch next or next time. Choose the birth books that feel good to pick up. Choose the podcast episodes and the birth stories that something just speaks to you about it, you know, you just get a vibe. And do that for your pregnancy. Follow your joy literally in what you learn, what you take in, and then take in the ones that spark something within you, because I just feel like that's always leading you to a really good place and exactly like what you need in the moment. So that's tip number 3. It relates, put another way, is following your intuition. It's like that little whisper of, see what, like, this is what I think. Like, ooh, this is how I would want that to go. Or, ooh, that speaks to me. No, that doesn't speak to me. Oh, I'm gonna, like this person resonates with me. This course resonates with me. This episode resonates with me. Silence today resonates with me. Like, go through and just moment by moment, day by day, follow your intuition. It's gonna lead you to the exact right, perfect place. Short and sweet, follow your intuition. That's what I did. It's what led me to find the exact right time, or it's what led me to know what to pick up, right? It's what led me to, like, in my midwife's office, she's like, we were talking about the options, and I was like, okay, like, it's sounding appealing to me maybe to go unmedicated, but I'm not sure if I could, like, do it. She was like, read the book by Ina May Gaskin. And it's like this famous book. And it's around, like, methods of childbirth. And it's all about natural childbirth. And it includes so many different tips, so many different stories. And it's just a whole different way of thinking about birth. And so when she said that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. And something about that book spoke to me. And as I went through it, you know, some things did, some things didn't, but I got so much from it just by reading that and just seeing what is possible for me based on what is possible for others. Another time my midwife was like, watch birth videos. And I was like, I really don't want to. So at that point, it wasn't bringing me joy. It wasn't going to bring me joy to do that. But then she kept talking about it, and she's like, and she told me the benefits of seeing a birth video. She's like, you've seen so many negative things growing up. Like, look at some positive examples and look to see what calm stories look like. I feel like being open-minded is so helpful in those things, in those moments, because the thought of that, I was like, nope, that I could have written that off as that doesn't bring me joy to look at birth videos. However, I was open-minded and I engaged in the conversation with her, and she's just like, show yourself what a calm experience could look like. And so I was open to it, okay? And I just took that next step, and then I looked at different resources, different videos that did feel like I could just tell had a good, calm, non-fearful vibe. I didn't go for like the really graphic ones, especially at the start. I just went for things like this, where it's more like sitting with a friend and they're like telling you about it in a non-fearful way. So yeah, listen to what sparks joy, follow your curiosity, and I just think that is going to get you really, really far. So, okay. Number 4. Actually, this just leads into it perfectly, because number 4 of how I prepared for my calm birth, a huge thing that made such a positive impact was actually those birth stories. And it was watching birth stories, listening about birth stories, reading about birth stories, and chatting with women about their positive experiences. And here I was kind of strict. I had these good internal boundaries, I feel, when it came to the types of birth stories I took in. I was really discerning of like, this one feels good to listen to, or there's just something about the vibe of this that like, not for me. And I just trusted that, and I think that is just key, and also just cuts out a lot of the noise or the things that maybe aren't meant for you. What I loved about hearing these birth stories was it really swung the pendulum back, because I feel like the pendulum was so far over with all the negative things I'd heard about birth. Like one of my friends, I remember being like, my mom described it as like all these knives stabbing into me, and I'm like, that just sounds terrible. And or like women being like, okay, no one gave me the heads up, so just so you know, it's like excruciatingly painful. These are the stories that I remembered hearing about birth. So the pendulum was way over in the negative. It was like, no wonder I was just like, I don't want to feel any of this. And so what the positive stories did was it brought the pendulum back to more balance, and also just more representative of all the different possibilities that exist. And it showed me that positive experiences are actually possible. And if you haven't heard it yet, I promise, positive, amazing birth experiences are actually possible, and they are possible for you. Even if you think you have a low pain tolerance, even if you think you can't do it, even if you've only heard negative things, I want you to start to take in the positive examples. I hope this channel will be such a helpful resource for you along your journey to just get your mind on board, and most importantly, your subconscious on board, because you're going to start rewiring some of those fears. You're going to start showing yourself what is possible. And I just feel like that inspires so much hope, more excitement about birth, and it gives you a vision or something to work towards. Because what ends up happening is you're not trying to avoid pain or birth. You're not trying to avoid an experience, you're actually trying to create an experience. So that's a subtle but huge shift, okay? Because so many people go into birth blindsided, or they don't educate themselves, or they're just like, my plan is just to not feel anything and get an epidural as fast as possible. But then they miss out on the possibility of creating a birth experience that you want, like you're pursuing something instead of avoiding it. And I love that shift of birth. And filling your mind with positive stories gives you something to pursue. You can see yourself in other women. Like I said a few times already, you can start to pick out the pieces that feel delightful. Maybe you're like, oh my God, fairy lights would feel so delightful, or this type of birth feels so delightful, or this kind of position would feel so delightful. And you're just starting to show yourself that that's possible, because then you're opening up to be like, oh my gosh, that's possible. What if it's possible for them, why not me too? And I just think that is so exciting and completely shifts your whole birth experience. So consume all those stories that are going to feel good to you, and stay tuned for next week, because I'm so excited to share with you. I'm so excited to share with you the birth experience. That was my first water birth, my first birth, that I'm sharing how I planned for it. You're going to get to hear how it went, and spoiler, it was amazing. And check out the video if it resonates with you. So okay, that was number 4. Number 5, tip number 5. This one is my favorite. This one is not the thing that they teach in every birth class. This is my passion that I teach because it's just my jam as a mindset coach. I didn't seek it. I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't do mindset work back then. But number 5, what ended up happening in hindsight was I totally rewired my mindset around birth. And that's the 5th thing that I did. And it was the most impactful thing that I did, to go into birth feeling confident, calm, and then just feel more capable and in control during the contractions. Because not only did I know what to do, I knew how to think, I knew how to stay calm. The mindset and the breathing techniques and the visualizations, those things all work together to just feel so much better during labor, and then also just more prepared going in. So 5 is to prep your mindset for birth. I think we're so good at prepping our bodies. That could be a 6th or 7th tip, is to prep your body. There are certain exercises you can do, certain squats, those like low squats, it's like a yoga pose. There are so many things you can do to strengthen your body that's going to help you during labor. Do that too. That's amazing. Prenatal yoga is supportive. Strength training is supportive. Even late into your pregnancy, you can do that. I recommend getting someone who's well versed in prenatal fitness, because they can help you pinpoint the exercises of like, this is going to help you during labor. And if you strengthen these particular muscle groups, that's going to help you postpartum as well. And yeah, that was a big value of mine, was just staying strong and healthy and active during pregnancy. And for both of my pregnancies, I worked out till the end. And at the end, I did strength training for both my pregnancies. I think less so in the first trimester because I was so tired. So I did it less, but second trimester definitely, third trimester definitely. And at the very end for my first pregnancy, I did a lot of prenatal yoga at home, which was really lovely and nurturing. But yeah, that's another bonus tip that I did, was around fitness and strength. But what we don't talk about as much, which is why I wanted to include it as my 5th tip here, is strength training your mind for birth. And it has to do with rewiring your fears around birth, replacing fear or doubt or feeling like you can't do it, or just doubting your ability, replacing those thoughts with I can do it and I will do it and I'm made for this, and filling your mind with those like calm, lovely thoughts about birth so your body and your mind feel safe during labor. And that's huge, because that is what is going to help you feel less pain. That is what is going to help you feel more in control during the contractions. That is what is going to make you feel more empowered and like, I've got this. And it's what is going to keep you strong in the transition phase where you doubt. And it is what is going to help you in the pushing stage. It's just going to help you with all of it. Because having a calm mind during labor has physical effects of your body, and it also just translates into a better birth experience, because obviously you're going to have a better birth experience if you are calm during it, if you feel more in control during it, if you feel more confident, capable during it, than if you feel like panicked and chaotic, right? So that's why it's my favorite thing to do, favorite thing to teach, because I just think it's so needed so much more than is already taught. And it's just a big passion of mine. If you want to go more into the mindset work in terms of birth prep, in terms of the visualizations, the breathing techniques to pair with your mindset, and then in terms of literally reprogramming your mind through hypnoses, meditations, which are just beautiful ways to do it, and also birth stories, because that's another way you can rewire your mind. Check out My Light to Birth below. That's my birth course where I teach all of that. But yeah, mindset is huge, and you're already even starting to shift it by watching this video today, because hopefully it sparked some excitement in you. That is huge, because that's starting to create new neural pathways around birth and your reaction to it. If you get more excited about birth, you feel more calm at the thought of birth, that's just all signs that that reprogramming is already starting to happen, and you're more likely to get the type of birth that you want when you just feel good about birth. So kudos for being here today, for learning, for being open. I'm going to throw in an extra little tip, because this one actually wasn't from my first birth, but I laid it on in my second, because I feel like I really strengthened my intuition and my faith between my first and second pregnancy. But a little tip that I did was I just asked God for help every step of the way in my second pregnancy, with every resource I needed, everything that I needed to just feel good within myself, and I just like followed that. And then I remember in labor, I was on the way to the hospital, and my birth, this is for my second birth, and my labor was going so fast, and I just remember having my eyes closed in the car and just praying like, God, like surround my car with like this beautiful bubble of golden light, and like help us have an incredible birth experience. Like, and every time I opened my eyes, this is like one of my signs, I would see like birds of prey circling in the sky every single time I opened my eyes on that drive. And I just felt like there were signs, and I just felt so supported, and like I was safe, my baby was safe, and we were protected. Like it was all happening, it was all unfolding just how it was meant to be. So if you have faith, that is a superpower that you can also use at every step of your birth, but also now in pregnancy, to just guide you along the way to have the best pregnancy possible. Alright, that is it for this episode. I'm going to be filming so many more. If you have a specific topic request about birth, pregnancy, postpartum, let me know in the comments below, or send me a message on Instagram at mylightaway. I would love to hear your suggestions, and I would love to hear what your favorite part of this episode was. What do you now believe is possible for you about birth? What's starting to rewire for you? Let me know. Would love to cheer you on. And that's it. I will see you in the next episode, sharing my birth story, and I hope to see you there.